What's going on, DMG clan? Today I'm going to teach you guys how to install your PicoFly 2040 mod chip into your Schmich, if you know what I'm saying. So let's level up our gaming knowledge, grab your soldering iron, grab your tools, grab your blue mat, and learn what to do with your cat. Meow! Alright, mobile gamers, so to start off, you're going to need a Nintendo Switch. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about how to get this modification done so that you can unlock the full potential of your Nintendo Switch to back up games, back up your game saves, and install games that you physically own. Because yeah, I own quite a few physical games and you want to install them and preserve them on your device. And that's what this device is basically for, which is the PicoFly RP 2040 Nintendo Switch kit. Now, this works with the V1 and the V2. Your kit might come with both of these, and well, it should, because I'm going to supply you with the link below, so that you can either use it at the V1 or the V2. This is the V2 version, I'm pretty positive. The way to tell is by looking at your serial number or by opening it up and looking at the actual board, which I'll show you here today. Now, I have a V1 model as well, and that model is currently actually dumping some games for my Make Switch flash cart, and I already did this one, and there's a video for that coming out as well. So this one's going to be a more straightforward guide as to how to get it all done and to figure out what version we have to flash for Hecate or whatever. So I'm on currently version 18.00, and I stopped my updates because I didn't want to go up to the latest version as of right now. And there's not a big deal with that. You can actually go up to 18.01, but there's not a huge reason to do so. Now, I'm going to take off my Joy-Cons for the sake of this. And yes, they are true Joy-Cons, by the way. If you want to watch a video about that, I'm going to release not a tutorial, a review about those controllers very soon. Now, I'm going to turn off my device, which is highly recommended, obviously, because we're going to be opening it up. And I'm going to tell you everything that you need for this to successfully go the right way, because I'm going to let you know I am still not a highly advanced soldering king, as per se. I have done now 5, and this is going to be hopefully my 6th Nintendo Switch. I'm not saying hopefully, I'm going to say it is, because it's really not that bad of a hack, and this is actually easier than the Nintendo Switch Lite because you only have to solder this one little cable here. So I'm going to put these cables off to the side, and I'm going to just put them up here, and we're going to have to flash. You'll get a little adapter like this as well. We'll have to flash the files, and I'll show you all that as well. Now, I'm going to show you the kit that I'm using for this, because I highly recommend this kit to everybody that does any modifications. It is in the link in the description below. It is missing some stuff because I keep it just in my drawer now, but all of my bits, I usually put them all back in here. And I'm going to tell you the bits that I'm using right now. So the bits that I'm going to use for the screws on the back, this is going to be the Y 2.0 bit right here. That's going to be for the screws on the back here, and I'll show you those points. And for the screws on the bottom, so right here, these two, and the top, this one, and if I remember correctly, that's the only one on the top. And then we're going to use it for the middle ones, which are going to be on this side and this side. That's what this is going to be. This is going to be the PH0 bit, and it's upside down. And there you go. So the PH0 bit, and that's what we're going to start with. I like to have some tweezers on hand as well, some good tweezers that are strong. This one's a strong set. I've used these quite a bit, and I have these ones as well. I also am going to be using these snips. These are side cutters and some Kapton tape. The Kapton tape actually really helps with holding down the ribbon cable if you don't feel comfortable with trying to solder without it moving. And some Q-tips. You're going to need some Q-tips for this. So have a handful of those, and some rubbing alcohol, either spray rubbing alcohol or just a container of it, because we're going to need to clean off the thermal paste, which is something else you're going to need. You're going to need some thermal paste. Yes, this is a big project, but you need some thermal paste. This is the thermal paste I've been using, and it works really well. It's really good. And you're going to also need some flux capacitor, soldering flux paste. This really helps with the actual soldering. some good solder wire, and this is the solder wire that we're going to use. Yes, it's a huge list of stuff, like I said, but this is the solder wire that I've been using lately, and I really like it. I'm going to put all this stuff in the description below. And then a soldering iron. Now this soldering iron that I'm using is just a cheaper one that I got on Amazon, and it works really well. It's done what I needed it to. I crank it up to 450, and it's been working a lot better at that height or heat. And then we have some cleaner brass here to actually clean off our soldering tip, which is highly recommended to do constantly, and some tip tinner, which is very highly recommended. You're also going to need some toothbrushes. I have two here. One is a little bit of a medium toothbrush, and this is a softer toothbrush, and that's just to clean off the thermal paste later on, and some sharp scissors because we have to cut some metal afterwards, which is, yes, a lot of work. So this isn't, you know, a beginner level. If you've never taken this apart, I'm going to try to make it a beginner level kind of guide for you to understand what we're going to be doing. So let's start off with the bottom two screws and the top two screws. So there's this one right here, and keep them on either a number, and you're going to need a mat like this as well. Keep them either on a number or keep them off to the side where you know where these ones are, because these are the same kind of screws at the bottom as on the top, but the ones on the side, you'll kind of get a feel for what the screws look like or remember what they look like. But honestly, it's really the screws on the inside that are going to be the ones that you want to kind of number and keep an eye on. So we're going to only unscrew the middle one right here on this side, because there's a piece of plastic that goes in, and you can put that one down here if you want to on your mat, and that is holding the back plate onto the actual switch. So if you're here just to take it apart to change out the back plate, this could be a video for you as well. Now we're going to pull this out. This just pops right out. This is the little hinge, and then take out your micro SD card. Make sure you keep that safe somewhere, and I'm just going to put it right there. Now there's a screw right here as well that is holding down the micro SD card slot, and this one is different, so you can keep it with your different screws right here, and remember that that's what that's for. Now we're going to change out our bit, and we're going to change it to the Y bit, which is the Y 2.0, and we're going to take out the 4 back screws. There's only 4. There's one here, one here, one here, and one here, and I'm going to keep those ones down on the left or right hand side, because that makes it a little bit easier for me to remember where they are. And it's up to you. If you want to copy where I put stuff, then go ahead and do so. Big thing is when we're doing the soldering stuff, when we get to that, is to take a breather in between soldering, and that just helps, I think personally, with anything to do with soldering. Because again, I'm not a huge professional by all means, but I have successfully soldered multiple devices now, and even a new 3DS XL, and it worked out great. So as you've seen, I just kind of peeled off the back plate at the bottom first, and it should just pop right out. And as you can see, there's these tabs right here that those screws were holding down. So that's why I said to take those ones out, because it just slides out just like so. Now you might want to clean this up, maybe use a microfiber cloth. Don't do it over top of your device, and just rub it down and get rid of the dust and stuff. Clean it up with some rubbing alcohol if you want to too. It's up to you how you clean your stuff, but that's not what we're here for, is learning how to clean things. And even if you want to blow out your fan, so I have this tool right here, and it's really good for your keyboards. It's good for this stuff. It's good for your mobile handhelds. I have a phone that has a thermal constraint inside it that will have a fan activate when it gets too hot. So blowing that out is a really good idea as well, which is what I'm going to do right now. All right, so I'm also going to clean this off just because I noticed it was dusty, and there we go. So that's good to go. So the next thing you're going to do is note that there is a screw right here as well. It's a Phillips, and you're going to just swap back over to the Phillips screw head, and that is for your micro SD card. There we go. And keep that somewhere safe as well. I'm going to keep it up here so that we know where it is. And then you're just going to flip that up, and ever so nicely, you're going to either pull it up, or you can grab a spudger tool that comes with your kit and just get underneath and just pop it up. It just pops up. There's a push tab right here that pushes down onto the motherboard. So you can keep that up here, and you can also keep your screws with your actual parts and stuff, so you know where they are. and that makes more sense to me. So now we have this back plate. We have to take that off as well. And we're going to start off. I like to start from the bottom and work my way around, because there's one here, one here, one here, 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 and right here. And the reason why I do this is because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at number 29, for example, and work my way around, because most of these screws are pretty much the same. But if you number them like this, then at least you know where your screws are going back into the actual back plate later on. And as you can see, it's kind of like a pattern, right? So I started here, up, down, and up again. And then this corner right here is going to allow you to subscribe to the channel, because this is going to be kind of an interesting, different thing to share. And members are going to be able to see this early, because I figured this would be cool for them to watch if they want to make it this far into the video. So now this back plate just peels up, and peel it up ever so nicely, just like so. As you can see, there's thermal paste in there. I'm just going to leave that thermal paste in there. If you want to clean it, you can, but I just leave it and it's fine. Now I'm just going to put this metal plate somewhere over here. It's fine. And you can actually clean it up too. It's pretty dusty in there. So clean it up, and you can clean the thermal paste if you want to, but it's not bad. Now the big major thing we need to do is we need to grab our plastic spudger tool. There's 6 wires here. Well, actually 5 wires, sorry, that are right here that are gonna take the battery, disconnect it from the actual board. And what we're gonna do is just get underneath it like this with the pointy end and just pop it up just like so. Don't ream on it. If it doesn't feel like it's coming, just keep trying until it pops up just like that. And keep that away from those contacts so that it doesn't end up touching at any point. Now, let's focus on that a bit. I'm going to try to take my time with focusing on the spots that we're going to be working on. We're going to get this thermal pipe taken off. So what we have to do is just kind of cut this foam pad with the pointy end of our spudger tool, and just cut it so that it gets pushed off of this fan, just like so. Don't put too much pressure, but just so it's cut. And then there's 3 screws here. So there's a screw here, here, and here. That is going to be the Phillips screw head again. So Phillips screw head is going to be the majority. So we're going to put that actually up there. And when I get this pipe off, I'm going to put it with that so that I know those are the screws for that, which pretty much that's the last part of the screws anyways. So it's going to be pretty simple to figure out which screws those are in the end. Now we're going to pop this off. It's going to be stuck down with thermal paste. So if it doesn't come, it's just because it's stuck and glued down. And it does rest underneath these tabs up here. So just hold it up like that, because it's going to go back in like this. So don't worry about that foam. That's just to hold it down, and it's not really a big deal because you don't really need that anymore. So we could clean this off too, but I'm not going to, honestly, because it's fine. And the only thing we're going to do is just put a little bit more dab of thermal paste right here after we get this metal plate off. Now, this metal plate is kind of a bugger. I'm going to tell you that, because you do need like a needle or a fine point pin of some sort, which is what I have sitting right here. And that's why I stick it into my rubber mat, because it's going to be used to get this metal plate off. So it's going to be hard probably for you to see this, but there is a little opening inside this metal plate right here. You'll see the openings on this, and you'll be able to actually just shove that pointy end of your pin or your needle inside there. As you can see, it already popped off, and you want to bend that out a little bit. And I'm going to try to see if the camera will pick that up, but as you can see, it's lifted it up. And then you can turn your device so that you can see these ones. There's ones right here, and right here, so that you can get in. You'll see the hole. You should be able to see the hole at least. And it's a little hole. You'll feel the needle go in, and as you can see, it's raising that up. Same with this side. And there we go. As you can see, that metal plate is starting to pull up. And just bend those tabs out a bit. Same with this side. And as soon as you get these 3, as you can see, this one was kind of harder, and it's hard to get to. So what you could do actually is just get your spudger tool underneath this and just slide it to the right, just like that, and then the rest of the plate will come up. So get those 3 and then just slide it like I just did and it'll pop up. Now I clean this off, so I'm going to clean this off with rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip. So I'm going to move this off to the side and show you that aspect, and just put that up there, and then just spray it. Grab your soft toothbrush, or your rough toothbrush is fine, and just get all of that off of there. And then we're going to clean the mat off after anyways, because we're going to put some new thermal paste at the end. There we go. Grab your microfiber cloth. Don't bend your metal plate too much. Just keep it in your hand like this, because we're going to put this metal plate back on, but we're going to have to make some cuts to it after as well. There we go. Now we can put that metal plate with the other metal plate, the back plate. And then just use your toothbrush, scrape this off just like a broom, and then use your cloth. I use rubbing alcohol to clean this mat because it's rubber or silicone, and just dust that onto your carpet or your floor, whatever you have below you. I have just carpet underneath me, so I vacuum everything up later. Usually vacuum my office like once or twice a week, not just because of this, but because I just like to clean things. So now we don't really need this needle anymore, but we're going to be working on this bad boy now. So what I like to do, because this speaker wire gets in the way when we get to the soldering aspect, is I like to just tape this down to this, or you can pull it out and then move it over for the time being. I don't really want to pull it out though, because it is a bugger to get back in. But we can grab some Kapton tape I have right here, just a little square. I just cut it with my side snips, and because we're going to take that off after anyways, but we're just going to leave it there for now. There we go. Now we got to clean off these points right here. Now I'm going to put this underneath the microscope so you can actually see this, so that we can actually see it up close. Oh, and yes, a microscope is good to have, by the way. And you can use a camera if you want to too. If your phone camera can zoom in far enough, then by all means go ahead and use a phone camera. So I like to use another rubber mat so my device doesn't slide around. But now we're on the actual microscope so that we can actually see what's going on in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray my toothbrush with some rubbing alcohol underneath my table. I have a coffee next to me, and then I'm going to rub it down and clean it with a cloth just to get the excess stuff that's on it before. So now, yes, I'm going to clean off this NVIDIA chip. We're going to take some rubbing alcohol and spray it onto our Q-tip as well and get that nice and wet. And you can just dip your Q-tip as well if you want to. And we're going to clean off these SMD capacitors on the left hand side here, so that we can work our way around here and get this thermal paste taken off. So ever so nicely, just do this softly. Do not put a lot of pressure, and just work your way around, because we need to get contact with this one right here and this one right here. But the reason why I'm doing the left side is because the V2 cable that we're going to be putting on in a second to show you is going to go over top of these capacitors, but it doesn't make contact with anything up there. Now you could clean this off thoroughly if you want to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spray my toothbrush again to get it wet, and I'm going to start softly, not a lot of pressure, going around this. Just like so. And again, you don't have to be crazy about the ones over here, just the ones at the bottom, because we're going to be going to contact this one right here and this one right here. I'm going to show you that right now. So this is the V1. I know this is the V2 switch, but this is the V1 ribbon cable. So the differences are this, see the contacts right there? The V1 had the capacitors pointed upwards, where the V2 has them facing down. So you can tell that which one you have by that aspect. So I'll show you the V2, and how to tell they line up properly is because of the other capacitors on the left hand side. So see how they line up there. So now what we're going to do, because this makes the project so much easier, to me at least, is we're going to pre-tin that SP1 and SP2. I'm going to turn on my soldering iron and get that ready. So we're going to zoom in a little bit better here. There we go. And you could just hold this with your finger while you're pre-tinning it. And I'm going to put some flux on both of those. So right here, put flux while my soldering iron heats up. There we go. You don't have to be hasty with it. You can put as much flux as you want, but don't put a lot. All right, so I forgot to record that part, but I'm going to record it now on the actual microscope. So you will see the close-up now for the pre-tinning process and the actual soldering process. Not that it was important anyways before, so you'll just have to watch it via the camera. So what I did is I pre-tinned, or I used my tip tinner and put some new tip tinner on there. Toothbrush just fell on the ground. And make sure you have your area kind of organized so that you have enough slack on your soldering iron, and then grab your roll of soldering wick or soldering wire and take your time and heat that thermal paste up, or thermal flux up, I mean, sorry, or that flux, not thermal paste, and solder away until you get those edges tinned, just like so. As you see there, I ended up bridging it, and I did that on purpose so that I can show you what to do when you freak out about that. Is just kind of clean it up, kind of pulling that away, and then using your brass, clean that off and get rid of that so that it's not bridged like that. And there you go. So see how I got rid of that. There we go. So now you have those outer sides pre-tinned. Just taking your time. And now we have that solder there. Now don't stick your finger in the flux like I just did. It's not gonna burn your fingers or anything, just it's sticky. So do the same thing on this side. As you can see, it just flows right on those copper points. And those are the only points that we're going to be soldering. And as you can see, I'm kind of messing around with this a little bit just because it doesn't look clean to me, but it's clean enough. Now we're ready to actually put this on the board. And maybe I'll put a little bit more solder there because it kind of dissipated. There we go. See how it's sitting there? Just like so, okay? Now clean off your tip again. Nice and shiny tip. Grab the cable with your tweezers, just put it off to the side for a second and get that little ball out of the way. Maybe rub this off actually, because we're going to be putting that device back on here. And this is where the capped on tape will help a little bit. So this cable is going to slide underneath this metal point here, and then underneath this point right here as well. Slide that underneath like that, and then slide that like that, and then line that up. And see how it's lined up with those capacitors there. Once you feel like that looks good enough, which it does to me, then you can use some Kapton tape to tape this down, which I'm going to get ready first. And just tape it on the edge over here. So shift it to where it looks good, which it looks good right about there. And tape this on the outer edge, just like so, just to hold it in place so it's not shifting around. You can even tape this side down if you want to. Be extra cautious. just like so, because we're going to peel that off after anyways. Okay, now clean your tip. And we're going to start pushing that solder over. As soon as it makes that connection, you can push your finger down here too. Like so. Now you can turn your board if you need to, whatever angle. Now I'm holding my thumb on this part right here. And there we go. Just to give it a little bit more balance. And there, now it's covering that point and it's connected. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. And if you need to take a breather, like I said, take a sip of coffee, take a sip of tea, water, whatever, then do so, which is what I'm going to do right now. As you get excited and you're like, oh, I'm doing this, and you don't want to get cocky with it, which is obviously not something I want to do, knock on wood. So putting your thumb right here or something if you're right-handed, and if you're left-handed, just do the opposite. That's not the hot part. Make sure you don't stick your thumb on the actual metal. That'll burn your finger really badly. And then just get ready. And that's where I was talking about this wire. Keep an eye on this wire down here, because you don't want to hit that with your soldering gun. Otherwise your speaker is going to be gone. So look at your camera, look at your device or your tip, and might have to put more solder on here. What we're going to do with that is clean this off. And I'm going to work on the left one actually first, because it's already kind of close enough. As you can see, you don't want to keep the soldering too close to the black too long either, because you don't want to burn it. There we go. You can clean that up a bit. There. And do the same thing on the right side. I didn't end up actually adding any solder yet. I like to work with the solder that's just sitting here. Clean it off if you think you need to. And I am going to add some solder just to the tip, as you can see. Added some more solder again. And now I bridged it so that we're going to clean that off. So make sure it's not bridged like that. There we go. All I did was just quickly scrape that away, and now it's connected properly. So that's good. Now we're going to solder these SP1 and SP2 points, and you can see the actual connection there. And if you want to clean that up, you can. That looks good to me. Get rid of that ball. There we go. Your soldering tip should just drag it out. You could zoom in a little bit more here. I'm going to zoom right in. Like, it's not the fanciest. You want to make sure you don't end up bridging over there either by mistake. There we go. That's connected. So as you can see, it looks like I got a little bit over there. Push it away. There we go. It's pushed away. It's on top of that other piece. And again, this is sort of a beginner level kind of solder. So that's what it's going to look like. And as long as we make that connection properly, it should be working fine. Now we're going to add some flux to the SP1 and SP2. And this will probably be the easiest part. So keep an eye on that wire down there. We're going to make sure we get a connection right there. And the thing about this soldering wick is that, or wire, it has flux inside of it as well. So there we go. Now, the soldering stuff is basically done. We're going to clean this. You can turn your soldering iron off. Well, it is done because we don't need to solder anything else with this kit. And you can grab new toothpick, or Q-tip, I mean. Spray it down with rubbing alcohol. Clean this off. Just double checking that connection. It doesn't look like it's bridged to that at all. Good. With this side. No, it's not the most fanciest for those that are professionals. Now we can peel this tape off. Don't yank it, just peel it slowly. There we go. Now you'll be able to tell if we made a connection properly. And if it doesn't look like you made a connection properly, then turn your iron back on, because it doesn't actually look like that connection right there on the left-hand side is put on there properly. So that side will be a little bit easier anyways, because it is on the left-hand side, knock on wood. Clean your tip. There we go. Again, like I said, you can turn your device if you need to. I'm going to clean this off again. I'm being picky. Yep, it's got a connection on both sides. To me at least, and I don't like how much of a ball there is on this side either. As you saw, I just pushed that away so it's not touching. Clean it off again. There, that looks better to me. You'll tell if it doesn't work if it doesn't actually flash it properly. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn this off. MicroScope, that is. And work on the next part. So this part right here, we're going to be using the computer to actually flash the board. So I'm going to jump on the computer right now to do that. So I'm going to be using a USB-C to USB-A connector, and I'm going to connect it to this little dongle right here. And then we're going to hold down, here, let's put the switch over here. There is a boot option. So on the camera, there's a boot option, and you're going to push that button. You're going to connect it to this one right here. And your computer should pop up with RPI RP2. Now I have the file in the description below for you, or if I don't, then it's going to be somewhere else. So I'm going to go and grab PicoFly loader file, firmware 2.73 UF2, copy that, and then paste it right on the root of this actual device, and it'll flash it, and then it'll disconnect, and that means that it's flashed. Now you can put that pop tab up, pull this out of your computer, and then pull the micro SD card or micro USB out, and now we can actually connect this to our Nintendo Switch. Connecting to our Nintendo Switch, take one. All right, so now that we have this ready to go, we can connect this all to our Nintendo Switch. So we have to take this NAND chip off using a spudger tool, pop it up just like so, and this metal plate's gonna come off with it. So nicely peel this metal plate off. I say nicely, but it's stuck on there with some tape. You can get underneath it just like this, and just it's just double-sided tape that it's holding down, and try not to bend the metal plate, and don't break your NAND chip, otherwise you're screwed. Very stuck on there. Careful, that metal plate might be hot. There we go. So yeah, that was stuck on there quite good. Now I'm just messing with the tape for no reason, really. You don't really need to worry about that. Okay, so put this back on here because this is a cover for this. Now we're going to connect this little NAND chip to this board right here. Okay, just like so. Just sits right on top of that white plastic. They did a really good job with this. And then we're going to connect this piece right here. But first, we're going to actually connect this. So it says up. So flip this flip tab. And I'm only bending this back so you can see it. And you're going to slide that in. Ever so nicely, just like that. See how it slid in there? And then we're going to flip it over and connect it to that connector right there. This piece right here. You'll have a little feel for it and it'll pop right down. Now we're going to actually test this. We can actually turn it on for a couple seconds to check to make sure it's actually flashing. And how we're going to do that is first we're going to grab some Kapton tape again. Just so nothing shorts out. And I'm going to put Kapton tape over top of this metal here. Now we're going to connect this battery back up. Make sure that that connector is connected. And we're going to turn it on, and it should just press the power button once. You'll see a little light. Give it a second to do its thing. And there we go. We successfully soldered it. It means that we did everything right so that we have the no SD card symbol, and that's going to be the next part of this video, which is getting the loader flashed as well. But this is just the soldering point of installation, so there's going to be a part 2, which is flashing everything to the SD card properly. So turn it back off by just pressing the power once, and that's how you know that you did that solder right, which is down here, and that it's flashed properly. Now, the next part to finalize this installation is going to require those scissors that I was telling you about at the beginning, because we're going to have to put this metal plate back on, and it's going to sit right here, and you can grab a marker or a pen, and I'm going to use a permanent marker because it's going to need to be cut right here and right here, just so that we can get that connector. And then we're going to disconnect the battery while we do all this again, because I don't like the battery to be connected. And you're going to cut that just with your sharp scissors. So be careful with cutting this metal because metal is sharp. But so are these scissors. And I cut way too much. I don't know why they decided to cut all the way down. That is fine, sort of. We can just tape that off or something. Well, it doesn't really need to be taped off. It's just going to... There. There we go. Again, this is just aluminum, and it's not a big deal that I did that. As long as that wire doesn't get interfered with. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to peel this tape off for that speaker wire. Make sure you don't rip it too much so that that speaker wire doesn't get damaged. And grab your thermal paste. Just put a little dab of thermal paste on there. Just like that. That's a good enough amount, I think. And what you could do is use a Q-tip and rub it around on that board, because you don't want that board to get too hot at any time. And that makes sure that we have enough. It won't get too hot. And we're going to put this back on. Now we're going to put some Kapton tape on this metal. I like to put that there. It's not really more of a personal thing. I don't think that it's going to short out or anything, because that metal heat pipe's going to go back over top. And some right here. You use thicker Kapton tape if you have it. I only have the thin stuff. You shouldn't have to worry about it too much. It's not gonna touch that too much. And I actually tape mine down. So this board right here, I'll tape it down. So that it doesn't move around too much while it's inside the device. And then we're gonna grab some thermal paste, put a little dab because there's some still on that. Oh, my thing's closed. And we're gonna put this piece back on. So in, under these tabs, and down, and now grab your Phillips screwdriver. There we go. Okay, so now we need to put the battery connector back on because we are gonna put that metal plate back on. So line it up properly. And you could double check it again if you want to. Just press the power button once. And no SD card, reads perfectly fine. So just turn it off. Don't hold down the power button, otherwise that'll just boot back into your main menu. And now we have to do some more cutting. So this metal plate's gonna go over top of this, but we need to cut. You can either cut all the way straight down if you want to. I just cut like a square out of here or a rectangle out of here. So line it up, grab your permanent marker if you want to. And right here. And about right here, and then you can go all the way down to about there if you want to, or you can just cut all the way down. It's up to you, but you can take a measurement if you want to as well, and that's about where we're going to cut. So put our switch off to the side, and I'll show you the cut process. And these scissors are pretty sharp, so they cut really well. It's just aluminum, I think, some sort of metal. Just bend it up a little bit to get in there more. There we go. Very careful, because this is sharp. You know what aluminum feels like? It's going to be sharp. I've cut myself with pop cans before in the past. That's not something that you want to do. And lift it up, like so. And use something to kind of push that metal back into place. Piece of plastic. And then we're going to wiggle this metal back and forth until it snaps. Just like so. Now we're going to grab some Kapton tape again. And this is something I like to do extra so that I don't cut myself. Okay, half right there. Then fold it over. And do the same thing on the other side. Now we can double check to make sure we cut it along the edge properly. Not sure where that point came from. I think that came from underneath. Maybe this one. Yep. Oops, upside down. And there we go. So yes, it's perfectly fine. Now you just want to line that up. And now as you can see, it's right through. Almost a perfect cut. Actually right down to that black point right there. And we can start screwing this back together. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our screw placements. So we put our screws over here for this. Got one in the top left hand corner, right hand corner, and work our way around. Now I ended up taping over that hole, poke it, then push your screw through it. And the other one's over here. No, not that one. I can't remember which screw that is. So let's put, that's the screw. Yeah, so this one right here. Bottom one. Okay. Now our micro SD card slot, you're gonna feel it with your finger to go to that connector. So there's a connector right here. Okay. And you could get rid of this little pad, peel it back nicely. and put it back afterwards. There we go. So that you can actually feel that connector. You'll feel the teeth of the connector when you get it on there properly. And mine just connected nicely. So if you don't feel that those teeth go connecting downwards, then don't push it because you can wreck the crap out of that. Now put that pad back on so you don't forget. Then grab that screw that we left up there. As you can see, stuff gets a little bit hectic. And I'm going to grab this other screw here. Actually, I'm going to grab that after because that's part of the plastic. That screw is going to keep that down. And then you can grab some more Kapton tape to actually tape that across to give it a little bit more support. So it's not moving around. It's good. So there we go. Now we can put this metal or this plastic plate back on. Double check it one more time. Press power button once. And there we go. So it does take a second sometimes to boot, but it does boot. So turn it off again and screw it all back together. These ones are all the same. Make sure you don't drop it in your fan hole. They're not magnetized. It's really annoying. And change out your bit to get those last 4 ones. And that's about it for installing that PicoFly kit. Hope you didn't cry and you successfully did it, because yeah, this is kind of a beginner level guide on how to do this, and I hope that you guys enjoyed watching that, because now we need to flash our micro SD card of choice, and I'm going to show you how I do that very quickly so that we can get into the actual Hecate menu, which is what this is basically for, and many other things. And there we go. Turn it back on one more time just to see everything functioning the way it should. Hope you don't forget to like and subscribe, because this video is just the installation process for a beginner like me, because I am a beginner too, and it still works. And well, I did another switch, which is this one, and it's got the hack on it as well. As you can see, I'm using the MIG dumper tool to dump some games. So there we go. Have a nice day, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you got your switch hacked. Take a breather if you need to do the soldering part, and come back and do it again. Don't freak out if you bridge anything, because you can just clean it off and redo it. Don't push on those capacitors too much. That's kind of a big point as well. And you'll have yourself a hacked Nintendo Switch in no time in 2024. Have a nice day. I'm gonna go do the second part of this video for you guys, so you guys can actually flash the SD card. And I'm gonna put this little kickstand back on. Here we go. See you later. Love you all. Bye-bye.